Series 3. Honestly, not much is going to change from Series 1 and 2 to Series 3. But the TARDIS team, what's it going to be like this series? It's just going to be the same one that Series 2 ended off with. Millie Ludington as the Doctor, Emer Kenny as Annie, who's an heiress from the 1920s, and a new companion introduced in the Series 2 finale, Harold, played by Toby Alexander Smith, who's a former politician from the far future. Nothing more else to cover, so let's just dive into the season's episodes and stories. I said all of my Cybermen titles were going to be based off of old ones of the show's past, but there's a reason this story is called this. Why is it, you ask? Because this story is a sequel to Earthshock, and the Cybermen's plan would be mostly the same, but instead of attempting to crash a ship from orbit into the Earth, they'd be attempting to crash into the Moon, so that the Earth's gravity will be out of whack and end up destroying the planet. Oh, and the Doctor would beat them by, yes, sending the ship back in time, but not to the dinosaur time, but to the Big Bang, because why not? Episode 2 introduces the main theme and political message of the series, and it is one most Doctor Who fans will disagree with completely, but it is my series, my show, I'm doing what I want. So, the main message of the series is about capitalism, and that is a good thing, but very heavy emphasis on the but here. It needs to be reformed heavily, and that's going to be a bit of the focus off of episode 2 and some episodes down the line. So now for episode 2's plot. So basically this episode is set in the far future, and a company will be trying to make money off of time travel. And of course the Doctor would go stop them, and it would hammer in the point about the capitalism message in this episode, and also you cannot rewrite history, not one line shtick from the Aztecs. If you know me personally, you know what I'm going to bring back, but I'm going to change it up slightly, but also keep it the same. But first, before I say what I'm bringing back, let me say what the plot of the episode is basically about. So basically, humans who've been eating from a restaurant chain have been dying of food poisoning, and it turns out that the employees of the chain are robots, and they're being controlled by the Scullions from the Sarah Jane Adventures episode, The Man Who Never Was. Like in that episode, they are serving a higher authority, and the cliffhanger to part 1 would be that the person who the Scullions are working for is in fact the Master. However, instead of torturing the Scullions, the Master would be treating them with kindness, giving them rewards for doing good work. So along with that, we also see part 2 is mainly just the Doctor and Harold and the Scullions rebelling against the Master and stopping his plan from taking over the Earth. This episode would pay tribute to the horror genre. The TARDIS would land on a space station that is drifting in space, but the space station is empty. No crew, no life, no anything. But what's causing this? Well, unlike previous episodes where the TARDIS was being stalked by an alien enemy or something like that, the thing that caused the space station to be empty, as being all creepy and stuff, is the station itself. Not that a virus was infecting the station, which caused it to go haywire and kill the crew, but it had died down by the time the TARDIS had landed on the station. But it was still there, so it still, was all wonky and stuff. In the end, the Doctor and Harold set the station to self-destruct, and return to destroying the virus. Yes, you read that correctly. I am bringing back the Pting. So what am I going to do with the Pting? Well, the transport capsule would accidentally enter the time vortex, and it would breach another ship. The other ship being the TARDIS. And the Pting would begin eating the TARDIS, causing the ship's dimensions to go batshit. I'd aim for this episode to only feature the Doctor, Anne, and Harold, so I can use the budget for on-set design and a ton of CGI, especially when it comes to Pting, as I want to really nail down the look of it. Back to modern day Earth, and back to UNIT. And like previous UNIT episodes in my era, it would feature the return of Sandra Oh as Dr. Isabella Young. Oh, and the Sycorax are back. So remember the Hartnell Pertwee era stories where they'd go to an alien planet and back and forth between groups of people? I'm gonna do one of those, but instead of an alien planet, it's gonna be planet Earth. This would be a good experimental story, with it being an alien invasion story, UNIT, a weird planet, 60s, 70s planet episode. I think combine those formats together and give it to the right writer, it could bring out something really amazing. This episode would take place on a religion planet in the far future, where the religion is based off of a prophet who has lived for 1,000 years. The prophet has been able to tell lies about the universe, though, saying warrior races are peace-loving races, and vice versa. They spread lies about the history of the universe, and this and that, And at the end of the episode, the Doctor and Co. would take down the Prophet and restore a new order of truth within the world. Now, this may seem like an anti-religion episode, but that is not my goal of this episode. I am basically trying to get hit at fake news culture on the planet Earth has been there since 2016. But instead of it being blatant, of it being a political allegory episode, I mask it under, well, that. It would be a courtroom drama and a comedy episode. The Doctor and Co. decide to attend the most famous trial in history, but end up getting chosen by the defendant to be their lawyers. Now, why is this the most famous trial in history? Because the defense for the defendant is so stupid, it became the stupidest defense in history. And we see the Doctor, Anne, and Harold attending to be so stupid that they should be locked in an asylum. So, comedic courtroom drama episode. What else could you want from this? To say for the effects on that Pting episode, this episode would be low CGI. What would this be? Let me explain. The Doctor and Co. land on an alien planet that looks somewhat like Earth, but isn't. And people living in a village are scared by a tower. If anyone goes near it, they never return. Dr. Anne and Harold decide to investigate, and when they enter one of the towers, it's full of alien equipment. The Doctor destroys the equipment that causes the tower to temporarily implode, and the Doctor, Anne, and Harold are stuck in the tower for the rest of the runtime. The episode would take place in a black void and be an EastEnders-style character piece for the three main characters. Basically, we'd explore the skills, but also flaws of each of the characters. And it would be essentially be a three-hander with just these three characters just, bouncing off of each other. At the end of the episode, a door appears in the void, and the three of them can leave the void freely and back outside the tower. This would be part 1 of a 3-part finale. While it is the same story that inhabits episodes 13 and 14, but episode 12 has a different premise for it. Let me explain what I mean. So first off, this would be a sequel to Series 10's Oxygen, and it would feature the main villain of Oxygen, capitalism. But instead of an anti-capitalism message, at the end of the episode, the Doctor would give a message that capitalism need to be reformed to prevent completely things like corporations making money over protecting human lives and whatnot. But apart from that message, what is in the episode? Well, a group of spaceships are on the run from other ships being controlled by the capitalist suits. And this episode would have a very similar feel to the TV show Battlestar Galactica. And like that show, it would explore the ideas of political and capitalist system. Now, at the end of the episode, the Doctor, Anne, and Harold agreed to help the survivors overthrow their government in their time. So they go to Earth, go to the President's office, and to the Doctor, Anne, and Harold's horror, they see President Rathme Essetam sitting behind the desk. And they realize they are on Nero Earth. So for the series finale, we have the return of the Neros, and the president of the Neros, Rathme Essetam, again played by Emily Wickersham. This would be a big-scale episode, and it'd be a Doctor Helps the Rebels format, and the Doctor decides to help a resistance force on the planet, as when she sees the date, she knows it's the day that the Nero Empire falls. The taking down of the Neros would happen for the majority of the episode, with the Doctor, Anne, and Harold start a revolution to dethrone the Nero-controlled Senate and President Essetam. At the end of the episode, they succeed, however not completely, as when the Doctor, Anne, and Harold are about to confront Rathme, she walks into a cupboard in her office. The Doctor and Co. enter, and they see Rathme appear on a computer screen in her office, telling the Doctor that she may have toppled the Nero regime, but she is going to get away, as she is safe inside her TARDIS. The Doctor is shocked to find out that Rathme is a Time Lord, and asks who she is. Rathme just laughs hysterically at her, and says she should have figured it out by now. She leaves. After that scene, we get a scene with Anne and Harold talking about how the planet will need a new leader, one who can save the planet from the Neros. We then cut to a scene aboard the TARDIS, with the Doctor's programming the TARDIS to give a signal whenever she runs into Rathme again. However, Anne and Harold said they're going to stay behind, as they both need to stay on Earth at the current time to help bring the planet into a better tomorrow. The Doctor says she understands that, and she departs in her TARDIS alone. So that is the main season! Time to cover the Christmas special. Thank you, Matt, for letting me use this amazing title. So what am I going to use the angels for? Well, I'm going to put them in an environment where they would have no control over, but they would still be to their advantage. That place being Antarctica, and specifically in a UK base that's set in Antarctica. So it'd be a bus story, essentially. We'd have the Last Christmas type episode, but with a good villain, not have Santa as a companion, a really good bus story, and hopefully would not be a bad idea. So that is my 3rd series. Stay tuned, as next time I will be covering my 4th out of 5th series I have planned. Until then, goodbye.